Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, live and for members only. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. No need to suggest that you hit the members join button, as this is specifically for members, although if you are watching this after the fact and you are not a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, then smash the join button. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Before we get started on this live stream, which is kind of impromptu because I've done a pre-show setup, I don't know what you call it, behind the scenes, and for this particular live stream, I'm going to carry on with that theme and actually show what goes on to get a live Flat Earth debate going. Now, because of the fumbling and stumbling, I've put this out initially to members only. In case it does go drastically wrong, I'll have a bit more of a sympathetic audience. But in the meantime, I'm going to actually transition across to what is a blank screen because no one's had an invite to join, and show you how this process actually takes place. So if you've been watching this on the re-up, or whatever you'd call it, the premiering stream, or the members only bit that this has been attached to as an uncut and after show, or whatever I'll label it, then you'll know up until now that I've set this up with only OBS and Banana, the bare minimum to actually start making a recording, and then taking you through the process of how this all works. And for members only, that's kind of my bag, you know, doing Patreon only videos that show behind the scenes, my woes, my worries, the things that break, how I get them fixed, this stupid amount of costs that goes into actually running this show, which I don't typically talk about. But again, if you're watching this as a member of the public, this is kind of you getting to see behind the scenes, not as a Patreon, but as a kind of quasi-member if this gets released. So what I'd do once I'd got my uncut and after show actually set up is I'd start sending out invites to the people who are in my typical panel, and that's by way of Skype. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to send out my G+ invitation to those people. Hopefully I'll get a few guests joining reasonably quickly, as otherwise I've got to keep filling this dead air with my members. Not that there's going to be any particular issue with me babbling on indefinitely about the Flat Earth debate and how it functions, because that is pretty much what I do. So I could talk about it all day, especially with people who are offering a sympathetic ear because you're my member. The other thing I'd do is join the live stream for Discord, but at this stage there's one dude in there who I don't know, so I'm not going to do that yet because it's a bit unreasonable to lean on somebody I've never spoken to before, and it'll probably cause uncomfortable silences. Better to actually just jibber jabber to myself. Although I suppose I could do the jibber jabber to myself while I've got a participant in there, but we'll see how we get on. Let's bring up the actual meet page so we can see our guests as and when they join. Where is it? Can't find it. There we go. You all admit, and worry about why I can't hear them, because there's no big bong. I haven't turned my preamp on. Hold on, gentlemen. Hold your horses. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Woohoo! That means that whilst live, which we are, I've got a working, functioning show. Because technically what I'd normally do is get you guys joining and then go live, right? Well, now we're live, just so you know.
You just keep getting better and better every day.
Indeed. I'm going to do what I'd normally do, though, Neil. So what's currently happening is this stream has started as a members-only live stream, and that means that there's a limited audience, but there are potentially people listening right now. There is absolutely no chance I can edit anything out. Not that I ever have, other than to make the videos. But it means that I'm going to bugger off a coffee while you guys chit-chat. I'm going to join the live stream for Discord as well, because there's a couple of people in there now.
So keep it clean and keep it entertaining.
Keep it clean. Yeah, you've got it. I don't need to say these things. When we are in the rare occasion that I'm not recording, and in this particular scenario, I would say those sorts of things, but I'm sure you can read between the lines, right, Neil?
Correct.
Excellent.
How's everybody doing?
I don't know. We've got a couple of people in Discord, Harp and Puckinrel. I can't say that. Puckinrel?
Morning.
Hey, Hap. How's it going? How's it going?
It's gone.
It's gone. As you can tell, I've got to get this conversation going, otherwise I won't get coffee, and then I'll be annoyed.
Go get coffee. How you doing, John? Good to see you.
We haven't heard from 10th yet.
I got something.
Oh, it's John. Sorry, I thought you were 10th. Yeah, my bad.
Well, it's somebody said the horizon was an optical effect the other day, but I don't think I agree with that.
Okay, I'll listen from the kitchen. If I ask you to repeat yourself, I apologize in advance.
Well,
speak to me, John.
Well, it's you have a radar horizon as well. There's artificial horizons. The horizon seems to be an effect in the measuring device, but not necessarily optical. So it wouldn't make sense. It can't be defined as an optical effect because it exists in other things.
A little more.
Well, that's it. It's not an optical effect. It's just, it exists in the measuring device. That's the only way I can think to describe it, because radar is not optical. But there's still a horizon for radar.
Interesting.
Right. Like, so I was wondering if it could be described as well, it seems to be supernatural because it's above nature is the only way I can think.
That's what I always felt, because what the heck is the horizon?
Right. It's observer. Well, it's measurement dependent, I guess. Like, for it to exist, there has to be something to measure with.
All right, John, hear me out on this. Say there was no contrast and everything was the same color. Would we see a horizon?
If everything was the same color,
Yeah, like if it just blended, because like if you're looking in the ocean, you got the sky and the sea, correct? If it's the land, you got the sky and the land. What if they were the same color?
well, see that then you'd still have a radar horizon.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because I always felt like it was a supernatural thing. Like nobody knows why we see a horizon.
Right. Yeah, you can describe it with math, but it's like it only exists in the measuring device. It's like I don't know, you can't describe it with what is, and just describe it with what it's not.
Good morning.
Morning, Ted. What's your thoughts on this?
I had a boat with a radar system on it, and when I was going to Catalina Island, if I had it set on the furthest setting, say 24 miles, Catalina would pop in pretty much right after I left the dock, because it's only 26 miles or so. Then if you set the radar for 4-mile range, you wouldn't even see Catalina because it's only showing you 4 miles out. Now, what's the capability of the radar? Well, if it's only a 24-mile radar, it's not going to show you something 92 miles out, is it?
Right. It has a horizon.
Correct.
So it can't be an optical effect. What I mean.
Well, I don't know what that. I was just talking about radar. Optical effects happen all the time. Obviously, I can't see forever, so.
No, you're not getting what I'm saying. To describe
I just joined in.
To describe the horizon as an optical effect is wrong, because radar has a horizon.
Describe the horizon as an optical. Well, if you finish that sentence, it might make more sense.
Because a radar has a horizon and it's not optical.
No, I'm not saying that sentence. I'm saying the other one. Say the first one again.
To describe the horizon as an optical effect is wrong.
But no, I would say to describe the sky meeting or touching the horizon, like the cloud is 10,000 feet above my head, but when I look out, it looks like that 10,000-foot cloud, way out there might be even more, but let's just say it's still same 10,000 feet high. Well, I know it's not touching the water. So it is optical.
In your eye, it is,
That's what I'm saying.
but there's other horizons.
What other horizons?
The radar horizon, 10th, we just talked about that.
Well, I just came in, so yeah, that's an instrument's horizon. It's not my eyes.
Right. So it's not you can't just describe it as an optical effect.
I know, but we're getting so detailed as every time you mention the horizon, I've got to say it's radars or my eyes now.
No, I'm saying that it would be better described as something that exists within the measuring device.
Yeah, I agree with that. My eye says it's there, and the instrument says it's only 24 miles out because that's all the instrument is capable of.
Right. And your eye is the same, is the type of measuring device. It's just a natural one that.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. I don't disagree with the limitations of the eye.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is Brian. I watched a show where y'all discussed it as an optical effect, and I don't think that would be.
Well, in context, you can't say it if you're going to say. In context, you could say it's an optical effect because you're describing your eye's limitation measuring device.
Yeah, John, I don't agree with that because we're seeing it. It is optical.
I think we're getting too detailed for our own good.
No, what I'm saying is that all measuring devices that measure any kind of relationship will have a horizon.
Okay, a 12-inch ruler could only measure 12 inches unless I keep flipping it on itself. So its limitation is 12 inches because the stick ruler is only 12 inches long. Doesn't mean I can't go find a stick ruler that's a yard long.
Well, what I'm saying is the horizon can't really be defined as what it is. It's a lack of information.
Correct.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with any of this.
Correct, but that was what I was waiting to hear. So the lack of information, i.e. the point of interference or diffraction limit, would be part of what would form your horizon. So it's a list of things, one of which is a lack of information, you're right. But it's not the only thing.
No, I wouldn't say that either. It's a very complicated thing, but to describe it as solely an optical effect when it exists in other measuring devices is, I think, would be wrong too.
But it's not the same horizon in the same sense that the other measuring devices are using a human eye.
Well, it's the same horizon you see is not the same horizon I see, so that wouldn't be acceptable to describe it that way then either.
So it's optical. You have better vision.
Incorrect.
I don't know what we're talking about here.
I say it's supernatural. And I say, what if it all blended in? You wouldn't see any horizon. The only reason you see a horizon is because the sky is one color and the ground is another color.
You guys are going way too deep on this subject. What is the horizon in the context in our debate?
I don't know. What is
What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know what it is.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I can't go.
The horizon
Well, you know what
is
it
the
is.
apparent place where the sky meets the earth.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's apparent, but you don't know what it is.
Yes,
Who
it's
cares?
apparent.
Describe it.
Who cares?
When you
That's not part of our debate.
It's contexting it. When you say know what it is, it's like almost like you're inviting physicality after that. Know what it is physically? Well, it isn't.
That's right. You know what it isn't, but you don't know what it is.
Right. And I can describe it. And in many ways, part of the life is short, ranty flat earth, red pill philosophy and myself, when we discussed the diffraction limit and optics and looking at things in the distance, 70% of it was basically about the horizon. But when it's 5-6 hours long, you can imagine the amount of detail that's going into describing what's happening in terms of how you've got a foreshortening effect with the ground in the foreground having a wider angle to it than the angle to the stuff in the distance, that opening up as you raise an elevation, the aperture of the eye or camera, as John was discussing earlier, is the device. Can't say it's down to you, you can't say it's an individual thing, because you can take a picture and no eyeballs needed. So it's down to the device in terms of where the diffraction limit will form that interference pattern that you can call the horizon, but has got other things that are definitely going to be factored in.
Well, it's interesting too, because we know refraction is real, but it doesn't change the angular relationship to the horizon. The distance to the horizon may change, but that angular relationship remains consistent. That's why globers are always preaching about their dip angle, you know?
Right. Yeah, dip angle, because they've got it asserted as physical. So the dip angle to the physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Right? Well, no. It's not a physical place. It's not Earth curve. It would be if it was a sphere edge. We'd definitely see it. It'd definitely block our view. It doesn't. It's beyond those limits. Definitely not physical. But that's their paradigm, not ours.
Inside?
I think John's point is
Would you see it
danger
if it blended in, though?
Say again?
Would you see it if it blended in?
What you see is blended in. Okay, thanks. There's a danger that we can do the same thing. Oh, God.
I was just saying, if the ground and the sky were the same color, would you see a horizon?
I would say yes, because you'd have one potentially causing an interference pattern with the other, and that would create a line, regardless of it all being the same exact colour. I would say yes. But anyway, I think John's point is that there's a danger of us doing the same thing without there being a need to. There's no requirement for us to define how or why when it comes to the horizon. Now, the definition of what it is won't change. It is, by definition, the arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground. But that's not physical, and if we assert that it is optical, there's a danger in that too. And when we do, why are we doing it? What are we using the horizon to make an assertion about? We're not. We're debunking their claim that it's physical, so just stick to that rather than making bold claims about stuff that you don't really understand. And in this case, Neil's admitting it, and I will admit it too. I don't really understand what the horizon is. I've got a good idea how it's formed, and that's after extensive research and extensively publishing that research to an audience. Like I say, just the condensed version was 6 hours.
Yeah, I noticed in that video Sleeping Warrior posted, that seemed to be the sticking point for the guy that was debunking the sextant or whatever, was a physical measurement, or it was an extrinsic measurement to a physical horizon that they claim in the Black Swan is intrinsic, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nathan,
Black Swan, right, precisely. Go ahead, Tenth.
four slides, Mastery.
Oakley.
Oakley Dokley.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get them up.
I know, but your last name, Oakley Dokley.
It is.
I know.
Ned Flanders.
It's too early. Come on.
Ned Flanders says it. Oakley Dokley.
I know. I'm just saying, repeating it sounds good.
Okay, you're up.
All right. Go. It came in reverse order, but go where it says chapter 20. Site reduction.
Got it.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. What is this? I'm going to highlight a segment of this. So go to the next one. The next one will show you how to do your line of position to the GP in that illustration. Where is this coming from? Next slide. This is the American Practical Navigator by Nathaniel Baldich. Must have for all mariners. And then the last one is the segmented part of the first page. Celestial navigation involves determining a circular line of position based on an observer's distance from a celestial body's geographic position. Should the observer determine both bodies, keyword both, GP and his distance from the GP, he would have enough information to plot a line of position. He would be somewhere on a circle whose center was the GP and whose radius equaled his distance from that GP. That circle, from all points on which the body measured altitude would be equal, is a circle of equal altitude. There is a direct proportionality between a body's altitude as measured by an observer and the distance of its GP from that observer. The lower the altitude, the farther away the GP. Therefore, when an observer measures a body's altitude, he obtains an indirect measure of the distance between himself and the body's GP. Sight reduction is the process of converting that indirect measurement into a line of position.
Very good.
It can't be any clearer than that.
Yeah, I agree. Very good.
It's much needed. And this is the traps I've been waiting for Bob to come on and say to just measure altitude, but not distance. You can just strike him off as a buffoon.
I've edited two videos so far from that 4-hour extravaganza, and the second one was 2 parts. So it's like right in the middle when he's trying to jump ship. You're like, no, don't run away. I want to go through this with you. What are you doing? Don't run. And he's saying, no, if you're going to go through it, I'm going to run. And then later, after a lot of discussion about what had happened, you said, right, are you ready? I'm going to present how he's wrong. So I took that from the end of the show. It was right near the end. Do you remember doing it with the black and white picture? Tally-ho, gentlemen.
I'm trying to remember. It was a long show.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that got strapped onto the end of Bob's departure.
Oh, okay.
So it made concise sense.
Gotcha.
What number is today's show?
1499. It's live right now.
Well, what's with the later dates for like the 29th of September and the 28th?
What?
He's got it pre-organized to show on those dates.
Don't talk shop too much. We are actually live. It's not a pre-show. This is actually live, not a pre-show. The pre-show was dead boring in the behind-the-scenes flat Earth debate. Me setting up.
So go on with your thought there. It's $14.99. That's what I have written down in my notebook.
Yeah, $14.99, Neil.
Thank you.
So we have got an audience. Everybody. Got a live audience. Admittedly, the Discord chat is busier than the live audience, but like I say, it's members only. So it's not going to have a massive amount of people be there.
So the line of position that you get. Hang on, I got a cough. Okay, the line of position that you get by working the azimuth to your sighting with the sextant to get the bearing, that is what you're going to use with your dead reckoning, your assumed position, until you figure out exactly where you are, going through the steps. That is the radius line of the GP to you. And when you use the sextant, it is giving you the distance via the altitude. You get them both. You get the angle and the distance. Don't let them separate it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say that the horizon, when you're measuring it as a baller, right? It's an extrinsic measurement for the dip angle to be a geometric measurement. That's what you have to assume. I was trying to say this because I heard Akuma virus saying that refraction is intrinsic to the ball, but that means you're not measuring anything. That was why I stopped believing the ball, because it's not an extrinsic measurement. It's not a measurement anymore. They're invalidating the measurement by saying refraction, and they don't even get that.
Yeah, that was the very thing that had to be explained and laid out to me when I went to QE and said, look, just use this picture of the cranes in the Black Swan image. There's no refraction. The horizon's further. It's better. And although he didn't laugh at me, you know, from his tone, I detected that he's like, yeah, this is brilliant. It's working beautifully. You're telling me how annoyed you are with refraction being the rebuttal. Not realising, not Nathan Oakley, not realising that by saying refraction, they are invalidating their own claim of geometry. And that's what John's just laid out. It's the very reason he transitioned from being a trolley baller to being a flat earther. Because if you haven't got a physical geometric sphere edge, that's earth curve, to measure, then you're not on a sphere. It's as simple as that.
I just want to say to Tent Man a second. If John is finished here, were you going to say something back there, John?
Nothing important. I was just agreeing with Nathan.
Okay. Bob didn't disagree that the angle gives you the distance yesterday. It's just he claimed the distance was over a curved Earth.
Yeah, but you covered that with him. Yeah, but you covered that.
Yeah, but I thought Tent said earlier. Sorry, go on.
No, you covered that with him. That's another video that I've trimmed out. If you remember, go and watch it. So yeah, exactly, Brian. You've got him describing the arc over the top of the chord that he's drawn by dissecting through a sphere that he didn't have a radius for. You know, you were really... Everyone was on fire yesterday. It was a brilliant show with Bob. You know, should really give him props for turning up. You know, I'll give him props right now. Props, Bob. You got the balls to actually come here and fight your corner. Hey, Arwin.
Yeah, I give him props for that too, Nathan. Definitely. But I thought Kent said earlier that Bob was denying that you get your measurement.
Well, I'll have to listen again. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I thought he had an open-ended statement by saying it doesn't do distance; it does altitude. I thought I heard him say that.
Yeah, he might have been double speaking a bit, but he did claim that the distance is. Sorry, you have to cough.
No, I'm good.
He had to cough.
Oh, he had to cough. I thought you said sorry. You had to cough.
Yeah, it was a carbon copy of that in the tape.
Oh, you're so sweet, not ruining my recording. Live stream.
That's funny. That's funny.
The most ridiculous thing he said, I think. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think the most ridiculous thing he said was that you don't need the horizon.
Well, he was setting us up because he was using an artificial horizon, and he wasn't telling us that he was using some kind of plate with some liquid in it, or he bought the actual artificial horizon you could buy for $38. So I posted a video that shows what an artificial horizon is and why you don't take dip measurement for it. So he was setting us up to say, well, I did it this way. I didn't use the horizon. Yeah, but you still had to use your horizon mirror on the plate, didn't you?
Okay. Just so it didn't get covered. I only know this because I've spent probably about 16 hours going through material and editing it, etc. But yeah, you said that yesterday, and I want you to explain why. So I'll just start you off. An artificial horizon is something that you can create that projects a horizon, but it's completely horizontal from the position of the projection unit. So therefore, well, you do it. Go ahead, 10th.
Again, I put the video up there because anyone could type in artificial horizon and watch the videos of how it works. But it's basically when you're fogged in, or you want to practice with your sextant on land, because they say do it a lot so you're familiar with the steps, and you're just within a few feet of it. It's not anything that's a long distance, and it's up, and it's only measures. They say, in fact, I have to go to the article, but 50 degrees or something, it's a limited measurement because it's half the thing. And so that part I never got into. I just know that they use it to practice. But what I want to, well, that's why I made what do you call it? The link there. So if anybody wants to go get the details, they can get it. Because I don't go looking into how those things work. I just know what they are. What I want to discuss is why Bob says you don't need the horizon when every sextant manual says you do. And then it came out, he was playing a little game with us because he wasn't using the natural horizon.
Let me answer. Why doesn't he want the horizon? Because his horizon as a physical geometric sphere edge has been debunked. And in terms of where their horizon lies, it doesn't establish horizontal. Now, the tool does, but their dip puts that all to crap. So when it came to, I thought you were talking about his double speaking around the fact that when he's asked to get a straight line for the measurement tool that requires one, he made it very plain he hadn't got one. I don't have one, but that's just going to give me an error. Like, error? The tool requires it. It's not like, I said at the time, it's not sentient. It's not like, oh, it's all right, I know it's curved. Like, no, it's just giving you an angle, that's 2 straight lines, and he hasn't got one. So he's got to double speak around the fact that the tool is not functional. It's not achieving what it's set out to achieve if its sole purpose is to measure the angle between the horizon and whatever it is you're sighting.
Yeah, but he was being deceptive. He didn't come in and say he was using an artificial horizon. That came out later.
I didn't catch that because I'd gone off because it was a long show to, I don't know, go make a coffee, I think. And I'm in the kitchen. And like I say, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear him disclaim that. Not that I needed him to. You know, he's got to... I forget to cover these things. I'm being blasé about it because it's like, well, it goes without saying. Obviously, he's got to get a horizontal. And what do you use? You summarised it beautifully when you're like, what's that part of the tool called? You're like, horizon what now? It's like, that's what it's for. Now, by that point, he's already disclaimed that he can't get a straight line. Well, the tool measures angles. That's game over. Now, we've said this between ourselves dozens of times in the last couple of months. As soon as you go to measure an angle and you've got a curved surface, it's game over. So I'm holding him to account on that. It's like, well, where'd you get a straight line? You haven't got one. Game over. Oh, no, I've just got an error. No, you just can't use the tool. So as soon as it is actually game over, I'm not going to just lay down and go, right, okay, well, he's trying to pull the wool over our eyes by double speaking around the fact that he's got an error for a curved line when the tool uses a straight one. That is what it does. Game over, end of globe, doesn't work, needs to be flat, it is flat, it does work, can't work on a curve.
Yeah, if he wants to misuse a tool, I'm glad he admitted it because it gives you instructions on how to use it. And you got to make sure it's calibrated in the first place from the perpendicularity of the mirrors when you turn them sideways and adjust those with the 2 screws on each mirror, to the index arm, making sure that's set at 0 before you start. And you may have a damaged sextant index arm because maybe it fell or dropped, and maybe you could never get it to be at exactly 0. So you take note where it's at, and then you make the adjustment afterwards by minusing or adding, depending if it's on the plus or minus side of 0 on the thing. And so it's all there for calibrating. In fact, the sextant comes with a certificate if it's a good one, it's already been calibrated, and it tells you what the index arm is at the time the factory shipped it out to you. So for the ballers to use the very instrument that needs to be done properly and say, remember this, Brian? I'm going to do it sloppily. I'm going to be a lazy navigator. Well, yeah, you're going to be off all right. You might be off by more if you keep being that lazy. You're just dishonoring what the tool is all about. It's like not using a tape measure properly or a ruler and saying you did. And then we look at your cabinetry work, it's all crooked.
Good luck with that.
I have a question about the logic behind this. Has anybody formulated it into a modus ponens yet?
No, not yet.
I don't know if you need to. It's pretty obvious just from the citations I'm posting and the manuals that sextants come with how it works. But I mean, this is how it works. It measures angles between an object and the horizon.
Well, I was just saying if you can put a modus ponens to it and demonstrate that you need the straight lines within it, then when they try to use the straight lines to claim their dip angle, you got the black swan to hit them with. So you got a modus ponens And then with their failed affirming the consequence, you have a modus tollens.
Well, we don't even need that, John, because the straight line is inferred when the GP's radius, 3,000 miles from where the sun is directly overhead, is coming to hit your feet as the observer holding the sextant. That's a radius straight line. And that, I mean, do you need more than 3,000 miles of straight line?
Well, you need a conclusion.
I have one.
The conclusion is you hang on. The conclusion is it works and you're within a half a mile of it. That's the conclusion.
So that's almost modus tollens.
Give me a
okay, but before you go, Nathan, I posted again the link in Master B for the artificial horizon for anyone who wants to see it. Go on, Brad.
Okay. If the sextant works on a globe, then the chord length will equal the arc length that resides above it. The chord length does not equal the arc length that resides above it, so the sextant does not work on a globe.
Precisely.
But that's still not proving the flat Earth. What I'm saying is modus ponens would be a flat Earth proof.
But it is. Because if it doesn't work on the globe, it means it can't. It means that if there's any curved surface, because the point of it is that the chord line is the need of a straight line, a straight radius. And if it's a curved surface at all, then they're going to have to bring that chord line through that curved surface. So, but the chord line will always be less in distance than the arc which is the curved surface that resides above it. So it is proven flat. If you understand
what I'm saying is you can't beg the question of a globe if you're proving a flat Earth. That's why I say it needs a modus ponens attached to it.
But that does prove it's flat, because if it worked on a globe, then the chord line would equal the arc distance.
Well, you're halfway there. Doesn't. That's halfway to a modus. You're halfway there anyway. Let's just do it.
For me?
No, John. It's his idea. Not you. Right. Don't feel obliged at all. Yes.
Okay, great. I go back to sleep on the floor.
Well, it's basically, if you measure the Earth as flat, then the Earth is flat. We measure the Earth as flat, therefore the Earth is flat. That's modus ponens.
Yeah. If A then B, A therefore B.
What about if the Earth were flat, the sextant would work? The sextant works, therefore the Earth is flat.
Modus tollens.
That's begging the question.
No,
that's begging the question.
My one was a modus tollens.
You could turn it into modus tollens very easily, though. He's halfway there.
Well, if the sextant works on a globe, then the chord length will be equal to the arc distance. The chord length is not equal to the arc distance, so the sextant doesn't work on a globe.
Well, what I'm saying is the black swan already debunked the globe. What we need is, and the sextant is a flat Earth proof, but you got logical steps you have to take, and you have to walk people through it. But if you could just formulate it into a modus ponens, then you're done.
I think I'm missing the point.
It's your idea, John. You do it.
I think I'm missing the point. Yeah. But I think I'm missing the point a little bit. The whole point of it is, for it to work on a globe, they need the chord line, because they need the straight bottom, the straight base to the triangle, for the angle, right? They need that, and the only way to achieve that is to run an imaginary chord through their sphere. But that doesn't work, because the chord and arc length are different. So it doesn't work on a sphere. So what does it work on? If it needs a flat baseline, it works on a flat. You understand?
Yeah. Right, that's the extra logical step. Yes.
Well, not only that, but on Mitchell's video, which he did a great job on, he took them the 64 navigation, 57 navigational stars plus sun, moon, and planets, blah, blah, blah. So, and he did the circle of equal altitude, and it covered pretty much the whole Mercator chart of the whole Earth. And so we've seen S1, S2, S3, the radii of those three circles of equal altitude are parallel. So thousands and thousands of miles are flat when you do three circles of equal altitudes.
I'm just going to get back onto John's point, because he's saying it will strengthen the argument for those who have a type of brain that likes to see it laid out in a logical consistency. Well, I agree with him. I think it's worth dwelling on and coming up with a really sharp modus ponens. Why not?
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. But at the same time, sextant can't work on a curved surface. How's that? Throw that in there.
I agree. Well, again, John's already just covered this. He's saying, look, right, in terms of it debunking the spherical surface, you are right. Nothing's ever going to take that away from a tool that requires straight lines. And, Bob's little concession yesterday is useful at this stage in the game. They haven't got one. There's no two ways about it. Nice to have it actually conceded. Excellent. It's like, back to the Black Swan, at best you've debunked the radius. It's a similar thing. Thank you very much, Bob. Because now we won't have any fundies coming here telling us, oh no, it's not refracted anymore, and trying to get away with the do-si-do circle jerk that you attempted, when you've made it absolutely plain, no uncertain terms, they don't have a straight line, and the tool requires one. So yeah, you're right, it doesn't, can't, won't work on a sphere. But we've got the Black Swan. Its sole purpose is to absolutely annihilate and leave no wiggle room. Whereas in terms of a globe debunking, which is why Bob came in, he wants to work his way around it as a globe debunking. Because that's the only avenue in. Because as soon as you actually get down to the nitty-gritty of how it works, it proves that it's flat. So that's the bit that should be focused on. It's the stronger of the two sides of it, even if the Black Swan didn't exist. The utilization of straight lines to acquire horizontal, that is the essence of flat Earth. So I would say, yeah, not to disagree that it disproves the sphere, it does, but it's a much stronger flat Earth proof than I think it's getting credit for at the moment, hence dwelling on it and formulating logical consistency arguments that people can just rattle off is useful. And I'd like to bet a pound that when this conversation reaches the ears of someone like Mitchell, as you brought him up, if it had a modus tollens or a modus ponens or a logical consistency argument strapped on the side, he'd just memorise it and rattle it off to a few fundies he's in debate with. Because it's easy to do it then. That's how he got that, at best you've debunked the radius out of Mr. Sensible, because he just literally rattled it off verbatim.
Well, what about, does the sextant require a flat geometric baseline to work?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So if the sextant requires a flat geometric baseline to work, then the Earth is flat. The sextant does require a flat geometric baseline to work, so the Earth is flat.
Yes, that's modus ponens. That's getting better. That's definitely much more sharp. No offense, Dave. John, sorry. What did I say, Dave?
No, I agree. I agree, because what I was discussing was with the auto lights. That was my modus ponens, was the auto lights. I wasn't using sextants.
Okay, rattle off your... Can you say it again then? Because I didn't catch that.
If we measure the Earth as flat, then the Earth is flat. We measure the Earth as flat. Therefore the Earth is flat. The tangent plane that was with the debunked tangent.
Yep.
I'm addressing.
Absolutely. Where'd you get tangent from? Black Swan. So it's always going to reference back, because you can just whisper Black Swan when it comes to them attempting to weasel their way into the sextant as a globe claim, which is all they've done so far. Have we all not recognised the pattern?
What are you talking about? You don't have a straight line. There's a distance, but you don't need a straight line.
Well, that's why I was saying that the modus ponens would be useful. But, if you haven't figured it out from the Black Swan, you might be in trouble as far as your reasoning skills.
Well, Brian went through that yesterday as well, because he explained that it's only one logical step to Earth can only be flat, because by definition, if you've got a shape beneath your feet, that's going to create a geometric physical limitation to your view at some stage. If there isn't one, then you've got only one choice in terms of the aspect that's laid out before you, and that's a flat plane. So that is a single step from the black swan. But again, that flip side of the same coin, there's no point in taking the black swan and saying, right, I've only got to take one logical step to get it to be a flat earth proof. Yeah, doesn't distract from that flat earth proof either. But it's a globe killer, and the sextant's a flat earth proof. Let's, focus on their strengths and know in the back of your mind that if someone tries to weasel their way in to the sextant argument as a flat earth proof, all they'll ever do is try and weasel in how they use it on a sphere. Just whisper black swan to them. Where'd you get a straight line? It's an expansion of that, which we don't need to cover anymore, thanks to Bob. So it's just whisper black swan and be done with it.
Didn't you catch a Kumu virus with the black swan in the same argument?
Yeah.
He fell right into it?
Yeah, but with one subtle difference. I was never going to get a concession, and even if I did from a Kumu virus, who cares? About not having a straight line. He just said, I'll just look and see. He's just double speaking his way around it. Not useful. Now, the fact that he's double speaking his way around it, every time he did, I'd say black swan. With Bob, he actually conceded he doesn't have a straight line. Not exactly a massive amount of stretch when there's been 20 months of them telling us about how not straight it is. So, yeah, not exactly a shock that he finally concedes it. It's just nice to get that done and dusted with, so that when anybody tries to weasel their way in to say, no, the sextant can work on a sphere, just whisper black swan. Oh, yeah. The sphere that you're going to definitely be drawing in your diagram with radii and tangents and chords, and you're going to need R for that. Black swan. End of argument. Meanwhile, you're going to have a flat plane for this tool to work. And it works. Therefore, Earth's a flat plane.
Can I give another go at the modus ponens for the sextant? If the sextant needs a flat geometric baseline for a calculated distance, then the Earth must be flat. The sextant does require a flat geometric baseline for a calculated distance, so then the Earth must be flat.
Excellent.
I like it.
This is getting really refined, really quickly.
Good one, Brian.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
I did say this a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. Up until now, I've never been able to say to somebody, hand on heart, when they ask me, what's your silver bullet? Proof for a flat Earth. I don't like this. I hope Kiwi's not here. No. The sea sparrow I don't like, because it's tied to the military. Now, without going into too much detail of why that means I don't like it, it's nothing to do with me not liking military in the way that you might assume. It's just because of the type of proof that it is. I just go, I don't like that so much.
Yeah, it's skeptical.
Well, it's not that I'm skeptical, it's just, how are you going to get on that bridge? Or use that weapon? Or there's a lot of problems with it for me as an individual. Now, that might not be the case for a lot of people, and I can get that, But I wanted something else, I'll be honest. And up until now, I've not been able to, when someone says, well, give it me, what's your best flat Earth proof? I'll be like, well... and then I'd just sort of think, when you say best, I want it to be the best. I want to be able to slap something down in front of you and you go, whoa, yeah, I with a little bit of consideration, because obviously nothing that you provide in that respect, you're debunking the nature of their paradigm. Their reality is a sphere. So to have something that's strong enough to say, look, this is literally a proof it can only be flat, it's got to be good. So therefore, something that's getting people around all over the world and has done for a long time, still works right now and needs a flat plane, I'm going to call that a silver bullet. That's what I'm going to, stand by it from here on forward. I'll be like, what's your proof of flat Earth? Sextant. Can only work on a flat plane. And it does. Because the Earth's a flat plane.
Yeah,
Well,
I remember
for me,
when Ken said it.
Sorry, Neil?
I was just saying, I remember when Ken said, sextant proves flat Earth, and it's the year of the sextant. And then it just started unfolding day in and day out, and look where we are now. Beautiful.
For me, it's not the number one flat Earth proof.
Bloody Irish, kick him out.
No, for me, it's definitely airplanes. And I'll tell you why. Because of the chord line of the wings, of how airplanes have to fly, and the fact that airplanes are simplistic. Everybody knows about airplanes, and most people, well, not most people, but a good percentage of the world have been on a flight or may be on a flight. So you could tell somebody airplane and explain some small bits to them, just about, you don't even have to go into the core, you don't have to even go into too much detail, just tell them that airplanes fly with their noses above 0 degrees horizontal at all times.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I agree. Now you've said it, I totally agree. In terms of complexity, it's no more or less complex than the sextant argument, and is just as much a proof of flat Earth. So yeah, I do agree. There are other, this gun's getting filled up. It's like we've only got one.
I think it's just an older one. The sextant is more of a newer one, so people are more excited. It's causing problems at the moment. There's more focus on it, so I understand that. But the ordinary everyday person would never really look at a sextant. But the ordinary everyday person does go on holiday, which
That's
would mean
true, Brian.
Yeah,
Brian, because that's what, when I first started getting into the flat Earth, that's what I couldn't wrap my head around. And how the heck are planes working if we're on a globe? It just doesn't make any sense.
What do they call them again, Neil? Air what now?
Airplane, not air globe.
One of the things I never thought of asking Bob yesterday, and it wasn't the last ones I thought about, is what is plain sailing? Define plain sailing. Because if you look in the definition of plain sailing, the correct definitions in the official sources online.
Is it sailing on a plane?
Yeah, it's pre-assuming that the Earth is flat. That's what it's
shocking, isn't it? What's plain sailing? Well, it is to sail on a plane. Plain sailing. Fairly straightforward stuff. They use sextants, right? Yeah. Because they need a flat plane. Straight lines, angles. Yeah, can't work on a globe.
And airplanes use air, and they fly over a plane. And they also have a sextant, above a sextant within an airplane as well, and other instruments. So I mean, it's like both types of transport, whether it be by ocean or by air. Like they have to show you the aspect of the Earth, don't they? They have to.
Absolutely. That's why I say, obviously, that's how you experience the world. Observably, that's how you see the world. Navigatably, flat.
Happy days.
Adam joined as well.
Hey, Adam. How's it going?
Afternoon, guys.
You went out to take the dog or whatever yesterday, and I gave you props because I was like, shut you down when I used your argument you gave me. So I was like, oh, better say sorry to Adam for nicking his argument and then telling him to shut up.
Well, I seem to have had psychic underpants on with you yesterday, didn't I? Every point I kept just beating you to the punch.
Oh, that was why I did it. In the edit, that wasn't there because that was before it. So, yes, I don't feel so guilty now. That's right. We were of like mind for whatever. It's usually chocolate.
Now, first of all, once you give Nathan
hold on.
something,
just one sec, Neil. Just one sec. Before that gets cut off, I actually do want to give him the props. So, I wouldn't have that argument with Bob wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Adam, because Adam broke down the switcheroo, the bait and switch that's used when they're talking about looking at a star, and then if you imagine looking at the Polaris in this example and then backing away from it 69 statute miles, okay? That's all you've done. You've backed away from it. It's dropped into the horizon, or lower to the horizon as you've moved away from it, right? But at some point, our fundy opponents will say 1 degree. Now, when Mitchell from Australia was explaining it, it's like, yeah, well, that's a linear relationship across a flat plane. Yeah, very, very much the case. I'm like, yeah. Why hasn't this come before? Then Adam pointed out to me, no, that is where they bait and switch you. They will talk about that 1 degree, meaning not how it drops if you measured it with a sextant towards the horizon, but as you move over the spherical surface, they're now assuming without you realizing it. So suddenly that 1 degree becomes 1 degree over an R-based sphere they've assumed. But that's how I had Bob, absolutely by the short and curlies. And had it not been from Adam, for Adam, I wouldn't have. So thank you, Adam. And I'm sorry I shut you down, even though I'm saying I shouldn't feel guilty.
To be fair, mate, you'd earn it. I couldn't help myself because he was trying to get it in early on. And I'd sat quietly. And then when you'd pulled the conversation back, and I could feel it was, and as soon as he used it, that's why I went, was
It
frustrating.
made the
Yeah.
edit. It made the edit. So in the edit, if you remember, go and watch it. You can hear Adam in the background going, "You'll need half for that." And I'm like, "No, no, no! Don't take my thunder! How dare you!"
It had been about 20 minutes hard work to get him back to that. So yeah, apologies. It was rather rude. It was like nicking your toast after you'd buttered it.
Nah, not at all. It gave me a time to compose myself and become even more smug when I did it.
Well, when they start throwing in things like nautical miles, they're throwing in their globe. They're claiming a radius of 3959 as average. Because all these nautical miles not really, right? Yes and no. They think they are, right? Because they're using the longitude line, right? So longitude lines are the same distance curved or flat. So they are begging the question when they're saying nautical miles. But they think that nautical miles are only a spherical distance. They don't work on flat because they don't understand that the reason that you can have a Gleason's map or an AE map is because the longitude lines don't change in distance. The latitude lines change. The longitude lines don't. And all their nautical miles are based on the longitude. A longitudinal angle is basically coming from the center, from the center out to the. They are pre-assumed. Let's say they make a chord line out of the diameter of their equator, and they bring angles out from the center, but a zenith straight down from the north, from geographic north. So like that's how they throw in these nautical miles. So when they're throwing in 1 degree, they're throwing in 60 nautical miles, and they love to use the term nautical miles. I always use statute miles and a state statute, on purpose, just because they want to say nautical. They want us to speak about nautical because they think nautical is some kind of a globe proof, but it's a nothing. It's just a distance over a longitude line, which is no difference, flat or curved. As I said, the Gleason's map would be an impossibility as a longitudinal map if the distances were different on flat. So they think they have something when they say degree or they say nautical miles, but they don't actually.
Well, it's the switcheroo. It's the switcheroo. That's the bait and switch.
Yeah.
Swap you onto an R-based assumption without you noticing. When you say they think they've got something, well, yeah, they've got a suitcase behind them that you haven't noticed, or so they hope, that they're going to switch out after describing a relationship that's linear across a plane, as we're all experiencing, and the measurement that would be taken to get that would be with straight lines and angles from a sextant. But they're then going to change that into an R-based assumption, so we're moving over a curved surface. Just hope you don't notice. They haven't got anything. They've got begging the question fallacy.
I would just like to say that anyone who thinks that Adam Meakin is just a chemist, mathematician, and accomplished family man don't know Adam Meakin.
He's also Batman.
Adam's the brain behind the operation.
Quick shout out to all the people who've joined us on this live members only stream. So we've got M, Shatner's Bassoon, Michael Kahn, Rob H, and whoever else is joining them that's not chatting. So there are a few people watching now, which is great. Shout out to all the people in the members only stream.
And just for the record, when Nathan grabs an idea from you, it's over. It belongs to him.
No, I'm not going to take credit for that. That's definitely Adam's. I'll use it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You get it out. I mean, you're so quick that you get it out. So you're going to get it. Whoever has the idea is going to get it the first time. But then the rest of the time, it's going to be you.
But that was a
Yeah,
trap
you got to
thing.
get it.
It was lined up for Bob to fall right into. I don't understand what a chord is, Bob. Can you explain it to me? Yeah, Brian doesn't get it. Yeah, can you explain it to me? In great detail. Tell me all about how you beg that question of a sphere, so I can ask you for the hour at the end. I won't tell you that's why I'm pretending I don't know what a chord is, but tell me what a chord is. So then he waffles on about how he gets his chord with the North Pole and all this other bullshit that's on a sphere. It was absolutely epic. Yesterday was so much fun. Editing it was fun, I must admit. Sometimes when I'm editing the videos, I'll sit chuckling. Often I won't. I'll sit there sweating because I'm poor and I'm making them because I want to earn more money. But in this instance, although that is also the case, I did actually take quite a lot of pleasure out of editing those videos together, chuckling and listening to bits over and over again. I didn't make a chord. I didn't use a chord. And then obviously I'd go and edit in him going, the chord it's a semi-chord halfway through. You know, him describing it and using it and detailing it to me and Brian arguing about it. And then when he gets asked for R, he goes, I didn't use a chord. Just absolutely comical.
Yeah, you can't know a chord length without knowing the circumference of the circular sphere that you're going to be running it through. And you can't know the circumference without knowing the diameter and the radius. You know, that kind of thing. So, you know, since he said chord, like, he was killing himself originally by saying chord, because that is, I didn't get a chance because you pulled him on him using a chord which is begging the radius of the globe. But where I was going to go after that was just ask him, was it a straight line measurement? You know, this distance is a straight line measurement, because the chord doesn't match the arc. So if it's a straight line measurement, it's not over the curve. You know, it has to be the chord. What's the point of the chord then? You know, if he says no, well, what's the point of the chord? You're not going to do it. So he did. You know, regardless of how good a debater somebody would be, you just can't win that. You're not going to win. You can't win that. Even if you were absolutely the best debater ever, you have to just say, look, I can't win that. You just don't have the tools to win that. You just don't have it to win that argument.
Unless you're a masturbator.
That's a reference to our Discord group, Skype group. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube. Do we bother with housekeeping when it's a members-only stream?
Well, sure.
I'm always a believer in the housekeeping questions.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Well, it depends who's in Discord. Is there anybody in Discord that's going to oppose us on them? Because obviously the die-hard fans are going to be the members, aren't they? And presumably they're well acquainted with housekeeping, and we're chit-chatting quite happily.
Even if they were there, they wouldn't oppose us anyway. They just stay silent. Oh, this is members only. I got you.
No, that doesn't mean Discord's not open. There might be a few fundies that go, oh, I want to get into Discord because there's no apparent live show on for the public, which there isn't. Michael Craxon, a new face. Hello, Michael. As long as we've got at least one fundie that can potentially oppose us on these questions, then I'm happy to run housekeeping. Because it's kind of like, look, the door's open. We ask these questions daily. And if you want to come in and challenge someone, there's your chance. That's why it was like a bit weird yesterday. Bob came in and I sat and looked, saw him there. And I'm like, all right, obviously he's going to contest every word of housekeeping. And he didn't say a word. He just sat there in silence. It was really weird.
Yeah, he came in saying, well, Nathan, you seem busy, so I'll come another time. I recognized the voice. I was like, whoa, wait a second.
Busy doing the same thing we do daily, housekeeping at that particular time.
Maybe he wanted an intro.
Oh, I see. You think he just wanted a fanfare?
Correct. Looking for an introduction.
So he's delusional. Thinks that we're on tenterhooks because he's here and we're really concerned about his presence. Bob, if you are under the impression that we gave two craps about your presence here, you were absolutely wrong.
Well, if you listen back to what he actually said, we were speaking about Einstein and we were speaking about general relativity and the farce that it is and that. And he actually said, well, you seem to be having a pretty interesting discussion at the moment, so I'll come back later. He actually said...
Yeah, that was it.
So he didn't actually... I don't know what he did do, but he did say... I don't know what he didn't do, but I know what he did do. He said that.
Either way. Useful. I'm just pleased. We got several concessions out of him. You know, the assumption that Brian wanted to corner him on got aired. Their assumption automatically that the dip isn't the actual height correction, it's for their dip to the horizon in their physical geometric assumption. Brian got that out of Bob. I got out of him where he gets a straight line. To use sextant, he doesn't. And we had him absolutely over a barrel when it came to him drawing a chord to slice the top of a sphere to give him an area of equal altitude. Again, Brian had him over a barrel about the arc over the top of it that would give him a different distance and therefore wouldn't have a radius for an area of equal altitude, therefore not an area of equal altitude, precisely as is required. And when he drew that chord through his sphere, he assumed a sphere with an R value that he'd need and didn't have, all of which got conceded to a degree by dumbfounded silence. You know, where'd you get R? Total silence.
Or I don't need R.
It does feel like we've made strides forward this year. I mean, in the subject of flat Earth, in case anybody was wondering if I meant about my acoustic treatment or getting a new mic. That's not what I mean. I mean, the show.
No, I was thinking as you guys were talking, maybe we should give a summary of what we remember 2019, 2020, and 2021. If we were to go back just for those 3 years, what was the main thing being discussed? What was the main hurdles, for the ballers that they had to deal with? And now it's obvious what we've been talking about, the last few months. And then the Black Swan obviously was 2020 and has lasted and will last because it was epic. So what would be the summary of this year so far going into the 9th month?
It'd be that we ascertained a silver bullet proof for Earth being flat with the sextant, and then progressively saw anti-flat earthers try and dip their toe in the water of rebuttal by offering alternative methods that would suggest that this tool that requires straight lines can work on a curved surface, to which we've now replied Black Swan, because they don't have any straight lines for this tool to work. So it's the year of the sextant, as opposed to 2020, year of the Black Swan. I mean, 2019 for me was all about them having no drop measurements. There was no drop in Google Earth, and we were showing the fact that none of the maps account for it, even though they've got topography and elevation changes, and it's just certainly capable of showing a drop if Earth was a sphere. They just don't measure it, and that was really what 2019 was all about for me. 2018 is too long ago for me to remember. I certainly remember 2017 being all about the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator and its assumption of R, and having Mick West, I believe that was in 2017, just admit to the fact that it's a begging the question fallacy and they just assume R in the first instance. So it's been, if you take all the major milestones, getting them to admit that they're just reifying a model and assuming R, and then them just saying, yeah, we just assume R, that's perfectly okay. And then us debunking R. Well, next in the chain was showing that we don't have any drop measurements whatsoever, even though they're asserting it by way of optical perspective hijacking. They don't have any drop. There's none measured, and when you do actually build anything, you're building on a flat surface and referencing a flat surface, and you're not referencing any 8-inch mile drop. Then you move on to debunking the assertion that you can assume you've got a optical hijacking perspective exclusive horizon that's a physical Earth curve edge by way of the Black Swan in 2021. And then you move on to actually proving the Earth is flat with a tool that would lean on it if anybody tries to weasel their way in and say the sextant works on a globe. Year of the sextant 2021. I wonder what 2022 will bring.
Well, I have something to say. 2019 was surveying, and they got highlighted. Maps, surveying, that kind of thing, more so than I had done previous. Last year was the Black Swan. This year is the sextant. But there is another thing out there, and the sextant ties into it, that may become, if flat earthers would wake up, it would already be a big deal. And that is GPS. Right? GPS uses flat plane coordinates on a consistent basis. That is the raw coordinate is always flat plane, X, Y, Z. 3 dimension. Now, I have a little thing about GPS I've been thinking about. That what about if, because you know the way people are saying the signals, like they always claim the signals are coming from the sky, It's all a big argument, whatever. And I can't say I've actually debunked that they're coming from the sky, but I haven't been shown evidence that they are either, right? But what about if they are actually bouncing, right? Bouncing signals off of the stars, whatever the hell the stars are. They don't have to know what they are to find out they can bounce something off. So if they can somehow be bouncing something off of them, then it's basically they're from a digital point of view and a mathematical point of view, they're like everybody's using a sextant. You know what I mean? So you're being triangulated via the stars, your position via the stars, as opposed to them having satellites up there.
I see. So you're saying that, but how would your average car GPS transmitter know the position of the stars in the day? I don't really follow.
But it's not that. They already know that the signal is coming from the ground to the stars and back down to you. So they're triangulating your position via 2 or 3 stars. Or more, maybe more. Like they say 4 and more for trilateration. Sorry, not trilateration, it's trilateration with GPS.
Does make sense.
So they could be using 4 or more.
I see what
stars.
you're driving at.
Yeah.
It does make sense. When that is established and works for triangulating a position, wouldn't you just use a mechanical or electrical whatever system to give that facility to you, rather than developing this whole other network of satellites that we don't even think exist in a sky vacuum to triangulate your position? What would be the point? What? It's like doubling. It's like redundant, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, why do all that when you can do just as good and better on the ground? But if you could use the sky without having to have things up in the sky, if you could use the sky just by bouncing signals from the ground, because GPS does work very well, but it doesn't work in the center of the Sahara Desert. Why? Because there's no transmitters transmitting signals. But that doesn't mean people in New York aren't getting signals that are coming from the sky, if you understand what I mean. I don't know. I mean, it's a concept. Maybe it's a bit far out. Maybe it's totally wrong. But, I mean, if they already have satellites, which is what stars are, then why would you want to have to put something up there if they can use them the same way as they use a signal as opposed to a sextant, and they use they triangulate your position with basically the same way as the like circles of equal latitude, except for with that they're using 4 and more for what they call trilateration. And I mean, there's other things as well, because they might just be getting a basic fix on where you are, and then they're using other signals around you, like bouncing signals off of other people's mobile phones and off of other GPS units and stuff like that. Because what you will notice is that now that 5G is coming in or whatever, what people will notice is that they will have even more precise, fast coordinates. You know, that kind of thing. They'll be really tracked down to the foot distance, the square foot distance of where they are. But it's funny enough that as 5G is coming in, the Starlink system is coming in. So what is given the precision? Is it the Starlink that they're claiming is up in the sky vacuum, or is it all the 5G? Because the 5G is going to be a lot more shortwave, high frequency signals. That's the whole point of it, isn't it?
Right. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this after the fact on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live as a member, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for hopefully sharing the show. Not that it's going to make much good if it's only members, but there we go. Stay tuned if you're watching on a programming stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Happy day.